Hi and welcome back. In this video, what I'm going to be painting are the interior parts of the iris, which is the style crest, the stigma, and the stamen. We're also going to begin painting one of the standards, which are the three upper petals of an iris. So right now what I'm using are the DIOXAZINE purple to get the deepest areas painted. Behind the style crest is sort of the little upright, sort of little, right there, I'm starting to paint the background of the style crest. The little upright oval portion is the stamen, and the little line above the stamen is called the stigma. So I'm using the DIOXAZINE purple really, really lightly with a lot of the titanium white. And you're just going to fill that in. Around the stamen will be deeper because you'll want that to appear to be more recessed, and moving out from the stamen will be lighter. So what I just painted there was the stigma, which is a little line, sort of like an upside soft V shape. And you can see I'm highlighting it there with a lot more white to it. So now this is the upper part of the style crest. It's sort of like a fluttery petal, short little petal inside the iris. And using a lot more titanium white there. And now I started to add a little bit of a white to the left standard. So the stamen gets a little bit of a yellow, like a golden yellow, golden ochre. And what I'm doing right now is painting the right side of one of the standards, which again, I said the standards are the three upper petals. So what I started with here, because these are more of a white or like an icy blue, icy purple. So I'm using a lot of the titanium white and just tinting with the ultramarine blue and the DIOXAZINE purple. So it's the exact opposite of what we used on the lower three petals, which was a higher concentration of the darker shades. So I'm using the same exact three colors, but reversing their order. So again, the bottom portion, we're using the darker DIOXAZINE purple and the ultramarine blue, and adding white to them. So the upper standards, the upper petals, will be using the titanium white and just tinting that with the purple colors. There you can see I started to add some yellow to the stamen to help that to stand out. And it's not an entirely bright golden ochre, so I've sort of softened that with a little bit of the titanium white, because you don't want it to be super strong. You want that to appear, the stamen to appear set into the iris. So it's not going to be bright sticking out in your face. It's going to be back a little bit. So what I'm doing now is painting the beard. So again, I started with the DIOXAZINE purple and the ultramarine blue and sort of got the beige shade in there. And then I'm pulling out using the liner brush, the little tiny liner brush, little tiny detail brush, and gradually adding a little bit more white each time and pulling upwards with my brush to get very fine hair-like strokes. So the iris beards it's a really fuzzy part of the iris, and it looks like a beard or hair. So it's very, very fine. So here you can see I'm starting out with a titanium white, and it does have a little bit of the ultramarine blue, so it's got a tint to it. And those are that little portion that I just painted is going to be a little bit brighter because it's a flipped up fold part of the iris standard. and it's going to be forward, so you want that to be really bright. So when you look at it, you want that part of the standard to be closest to you. So it's going to be the brightest. It's going to hit the sunlight. And the parts that are further away from you and are maybe tucked under another standard are going to have a little bit more shading to them. And basically you're just going to be working off of your reference photo again, adding those, you know, all the little ruffles, the beautiful ruffles that are in an iris. These are actually leaves is what they're considered to be, especially the lower petals of an iris are actually considered to be a leaf and not a petal. So now working upwards into that petal, into that standard, I'm adding more and more of the titanium white. So that's the part that would be, you know, the sunlight would be hitting strongest. So it's going to be the brightest. And again, you're just going to be using your reference photo to see where to add shading, which is the darker, and highlights, which are lighter accents. And that'll give you sort of that look of dimension of, you know, folds and curves and sort of bumps that are in an iris standard. And I just keep adding more shadow where it's needed, more highlights where it's needed. You just basically lay your groundwork of color in, and then you just keep tweaking it. Just keep adding it to where it gets closer and closer to your reference photo. You've already laid the groundwork with your initial drawing, so you're basically coloring that in with paint. That's all you're doing. And I'm adding a little bit of veining because there's always a little bit of veining. That's where I'm using the tiny little detail brush and pulling it down towards the interior. And that's usually like a very thick, concentrated portion of color on the standard is where the veins, the main veins are that go on the back side of the standards. And then I just keep highlighting around that, maybe shading, and softening and blending everything together. And there's usually a little bit of a highlight on that side that's closest to what you're looking at. So that's where I just add a little bit more white, the titanium white, to sort of make that area pop out. And in the next video, I'll be showing you how to paint the other two standards. And then we'll move into showing you how to paint the stem and the leaves of the irises. So I appreciate you checking back. I hope you enjoyed this painting. If you have any questions, please drop them in the comments below and I will answer you. Thank you so much.